What's up, guys? I am very happy. My AC just got fixed. Like the repair guy just left. I had to warn him. I was like, by the way, I'm starting a live stream in like 10 minutes. I don't care if you're in it, but that's what's happening. So it is nice, and it's a cool week now, so it doesn't even matter because last week was ridiculous. Jax, you got to back up, dude. All right. So today, I feel like today's subject is a good subject because I stumbled so poorly over explaining what structs are. So today we're going to be learning structs. AC, yeah, for real, Sasha, what's up? And let's hope the message shows up in the chat window. Hey, it works. I love it. All right. So today will be good. I kind of scanned through the docs, so it will be a good one. And let's go ahead and jump right in. We'll get right into the struct section. I started using Safari again. I like jump between Chrome, Safari, Firefox. And now I'm on a Safari bandwagon because I've been working on my like website performance, and I always run into issues using Safari. So I started using it more to make sure my website works. So let's go to elixirlang.org and we'll go to guides, and we are pulling up structs today. Let's see, are we going to be writing any code? Oh, we can stay in the shell all day. All right. Less stress that way, less things to do, you know? So, structs. We learned about maps in earlier chapters. So if you remember, a map is basically, it's just key value pairs, right? And it's the main way we get our data in Elixir. So if you remember, let's go ahead and open up the terminal. Make this a little bigger for you guys. Let's start our IEX shell. And so if you remember, a map just looks like this. It's the percentage and then opening and closing curly braces. And then you do key value pairs. So A1, B2, and there you go. And then we can access our values by calling the key in a bracket by its name. So like that, and we get value 1. And then we can also add values to a map by doing the inside of a map itself. We can pass in our original map that we want to add to the cons operator, and then we can update. So we can say take value A and make it 3, and there we go. So that's the maps. Back to, so structs are extensions built on top of maps that provide compile time checks and default values. So you can define a struct with the module, or with with def struct arity1. So just like we use def module to define modules, we can define structs with def struct, and def like we do functions, def p for private functions, all that good stuff. So if we go back to our terminal, and if we want to define a struct, it has to be inside of a module. So we have to create a module here, but then we can just say def struct and then define keys here. So we can say we want to have a name in our user module. By the way, whatever module you create a def struct in is going to be the name of the struct, okay? So if we do John here, and then we want an age as well, 27, and then we hit enter, and then we have to close off our do block from our module like that. And now if we call our user like this, and we just pass in an empty map with it, we get our default values back. So we get our user with our name John, and age 27. So what we did up here is we created a struct and we assigned default values to it. Pretty cool. So the keyword list used with def struct defines what fields the struct will have along with their default values. Structs will take the name of the module they're defined in. In the example above, we defined a struct named user. So yeah, we can now, I have to stop explaining things and wait till I read them because they're always way better than the way I explain it. We can now create user structs by using a syntax similar to the one used to create maps. So yeah, you notice the only thing different here is we have the name of our struct in between the percent and the curly bracket. Other than that, it's still a map. So structs provide compile time guarantees that only the fields defined through def struct will be allowed to exist in the struct. All right, so let's pull up our terminal. I keep pushing the wrong keys. So we have our user with John and age 27, right? And we saw that we can get our struct by just typing in the percent user curly braces. We get our default values back, and we can also do, let's see, we can create another user with, so if we say user, and this is how you define the struct you want to use, and we can say age 27 name, and then we can say Jane. And then we get another struct back with Jane. So it only allows us to use the keys that we have defined, right? And if we were to just pass in our empty struct again, it's still John because we didn't change any values. We're just creating a struct. We're not assigning it to a variable. So one thing that you can't do is assign a value that doesn't exist. Like you could do that with a map, right? We could do the cons operator, new key, value, and it would be added to the map. But one thing we can't do here is we can't say, user opening curly brace. We can't just add a key here and then put a value in. So this isn't going to work. It's going to give us a key error. So that doesn't work. Now what we can do is, since we have default values, we can just assign it to one key that's already there, and we can be like 25. And then we get John back, age 25. So if you have default values set, you don't have to create the struct with the value. It's nice and organized, guys. I just heard a ding. I think I got a new subscriber. That is very exciting. All right, so back to the docs. So we can't just add a field that isn't defined in our struct. Now, accessing and updating structs. Structs share the same syntax for accessing and updating fields as maps do. So, all right, let's see. We're going to create a variable. Let's jump back into our, I'm going to clear this so we can see, guys. So if we create a variable named John, and we can just assign this the default user struct, right? And we're going to get John 27 back. So now that's accessible through our variable John. And then we can say things like we can do john.name. We get his name back. So that's cool. And then we can also, now we can create a new variable called Jane equals. And instead of creating a new map, we could just update our current map, just like we just did when we were demonstrating what maps were again. We can say, well, we want to take John, our map, and then cons operator, but we want to update the name with Jane. Hit enter. Now we have a new variable assigned to Jane, and we still have John, so that's cool. So they update the same exact way. And you can also not, so we can't update with a key that is not defined in our struct, which we already kind of showed, but we'll go through this just for the purposes of following the guide. We can't just do this. So we're going to get an error. The key is not found in the user struct. Okay. All right, back to the docs. So when using the update syntax, cons operator, Elixir is aware that no new keys will be added to the struct, allowing the maps underneath to share their structure in memory. In the example above, both John and Jane share the same key structure in memory. Structs can also be used in pattern matching, both for matching on the value of specific keys, as well as ensuring that the matching value is a struct of the same type as the matched value. I said that word. Structs can also be used in pattern matching, both for matching on the value of specific keys, as well as for ensuring that the matching value is a struct of the same type as the matched value. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's go back into our terminal. And we can do things like this. So if we say we're going to match to the struct user, opening curly brace, name, and assign the name of another user struct to the variable name. So we can just set this equal to John. And if John didn't have a user struct and name associated to it, we would probably get a match error, right? But since it does, we can now access name with John because it pattern matched the key, and then we set the variable to the name from John, which is pretty cool. And then if we try to pattern match just a user struct to an empty map, we're going to get a match error because they're not the same thing. Because by default, our user has the values John, name John, age 27, and our map isn't defined by a struct to number 1, so it doesn't have the same keys, and there's no value inside of it. All right. So structs are bare maps underneath. Structs are simply maps with a special field name named underscore underscore struct underscore underscore that holds the name of the struct. So if we pull up our terminal again, I'm going to clear this. And we can say is map and pass in John. It's true. It is a map. And then we can also, on John, we can call the underscore struct, and we'll get user back. So that is the struct associated to the variable John. Now, however, structs do not inherit any of the protocols that maps do. For example, you can neither enumerate nor access a struct. So this might be a little difficult to remember when you first start out, but then once you start using structs, you basically know what data exists, so you're always accessing things from the keys, so it matters less. So we still have John. I'm not going to rebind this. So we have John here, and like a map, we could get the name like this. We could pass in name and get name back, right? We did that right at the beginning of the video, but we get an error. User.fetch is undefined. And we also can't do like enum.each, pass in John, and then have a anonymous function here with the field and value. So if this was an enumerable, we could do this. So IO puts value, and then all we're doing here is trying to iterate through this and print the value to our terminal here. But variable field is unused, so we can't do that either. So structs alongside protocols provide one of the most important features for Elixir developers, data polymorphism. That's what we'll explore in the next chapter. Okay, so default values and required keys. Let me make sure no one's chatting. Nope, quiet day. See, when I'm not making an ass of myself, everyone's quiet. That's how I know I'm doing all right. So default values and required keys. If you don't specify a default value when defining a struct, nil will be assumed. All right, so if we create a new struct here, I'm going to just clear this. So we're going to create a def module called product product, and then we open that up with a do, and then we can define the def struct right underneath it, and we can just say name. And oh, I'm not going to overtalk this quite yet because they get into it. So then if I hit end, we get our struct, or our product struct back. And if I were to just see what our product, just an empty product struct will return, we get the key back, name, with the value nil. So if you don't set a default value, values by default are nil. Now you can define a structure combining both fields with explicit default values and explicit nil values. In this case, you must first specify the fields which implicitly default to nil. So if we went, this is why I hate using IEX for everything. All right, so if we do this, so we're going to create another def module called user again, do end, and then we're going to define our struct inside here. Now, you're probably noticing we're defining everything in a list. And when we first started, somewhere up here, we just named them in a row, and it's the same thing. But if in a list, you don't have to define the value. So if nothing's there, well, I'll show you in a second. If we just put the key, it's assumed nil. If we do it this way, actually, we're going to try it. I don't know. We might just be able to put the atom as well, but it's the same thing. So now where was I? I think right here. Okay, back to the terminal. So we can define our struct inside of a list. So if we want email, if we don't want a default value for email, we can just do email like that. And then we can do name. And if we want a default value, the colon is just on the other side, but it's still an atom because we're putting a value after it. So atoms, whenever you put a value after it, like a key, you just kind of flip the colon around. That kind of confused me when I was first learning Elixir. Like I thought they were different things, but they are both atoms and they're both keys. And then we can do age 27. And then we can close that square bracket, hit end there, and redefining, oh, that's fine. And then if we go ahead and now see what our default values for user are, we get email nil, but we still get name John and age 27. Now, oh, I see what they were, let's go back and read. So you can define a structure combining both fields with explicit default values and implicit nil values. In this case, you must first specify the fields which implicitly default to nil. Okay. See, I forgot about this. So when we define a struct, if we don't have default values, we have to list them before the values with default values. And then this is showing us down below. We can't do it in reverse order. So this is so annoying. Okay, so def user, and then we're defining, now if I delete email and tack it on the end of this, because we don't want a value, and then hit end, we get an error, and the error is unexpected expression after keyword list, blah, blah, blah. So we cannot do that. So we have to list the nil values first. Now you can also enforce that certain keys have to be specified when creating the struct via the enforce keys module attribute. So I think this is probably a very important one to understand and know. So let's go back to our terminal, and we want to create I'm going to clear this so we can see. We're going to create a def module car do. And then inside, we're going to do our enforce keys module attribute. So enforce underscore keys. And then in a list, we want to enforce that the make of our car has to be entered. And then we are going to define our struct here. And we're going to have model and make. And notice we have no default values here. and then we're going to end. And now if we just try to call the default values and just create an empty struct of car, it is going to yell at us. We can't do that because we're enforcing that make is passed in. So we can do this though. We can do car, and then we can say make Toyota, and then we can close that off. We don't have to do, we don't have to pass in the model. We just have to have make. And there we go. So now model is nil, make is Toyota. So I think that's helpful. So enforcing keys provides a simple compile time guarantee to aid developers when building structs. It is not enforced on updates, and it does not provide any sort of value validation. So we can update. So what they're saying is if we were to say car equals, I'm just going to say car equals, we set this to a variable, we can now set this to nil. So let's see if we do, I forgot the syntax, guys. I got to look up, see my brain. This is how it works. I have to look up everything. So we're just going to pass in that cons operator and then what we're updating with. So we can do car cons operator make nil, and it won't be enforced anymore. Wait, sorry, we're going to set this back to car. And then, so now car is nil. So it's only an enforced key when you're creating a new struct. So take it as you will. There is some good information there. So that was a quick section. I didn't even like stumble over my thoughts and words. Good stuff. Let's see. What are we doing next? Protocols. Oh, protocols will be a fun one. So let's see. Unfortunately, there's no podcast, so no interview tomorrow. I'm heading out of town. And then so we'll start over, we'll continue with protocols on Tuesday next week. So that's exciting. And I don't know if you guys noticed, fast and easy. Yeah, it wasn't so bad, was it? I got a blog added to the website using the Ash framework, which is really awesome. It went really easily. And Roman, I'm sure you guys have seen him chatting it up in Discord. He's always very helpful and very thorough with his answers, so I love having him around. He is officially listed on the Elixir Mentor website, so he's just a good dude and wants to be part of Elixir Mentor and help people. And he's going to be writing blog posts and things and helping out as much as he can. So it's really cool that he's around. And don't forget, Connie's around too. Connie's an awesome dude. And he actually helped build the Discord bot that registers people when they buy our course to the pro channels, which is really cool. Well, thank you, Tripletus. I don't know how to say that name, but thank you. I'll tell you why I have less than 5,000 subscribers. It's because Elixir is so niche. If I did other things other than Elixir, I probably would have more. But hey, we're growing. It doesn't matter. Slow but steady. I think like as far as straight Elixir channels, I think I'm the biggest one other than like the main conference channels and things like that. But I'm sorry you're late, Mike. I did a lot better job than the last stream, so you'll have to rewatch it. But yeah, guys, I hope you have a really good weekend. I'm not going to be around this weekend or tomorrow, but yes, this was fun, and I will see you guys next week. Enjoying the video? Show some love with a like and hit subscribe to stay updated. To support me and keep the content free, click join for memberships or pick up a course at elixirmentor.com and get free access to my private community. Let's jump back in. Peace.